Doctors, data scientists, statisticians are making great efforts to uncover the leading rise behind the dramatic rise in number of hip fracture cases, because this dramatic rise is directly related to the future cost of healthcare delivery. Today, myself Tanu Srivastav and my partner Abhinav Garg are going to discuss and evaluate the factors behind the 30 days readmission of hip fracture patients. And we are going to study the effect of demographic, geographic and discharge location attributes on 30 days readmission of hip fracture patients, as well as perform a comparative study to determine which factors contribute highest to the 30 days readmission of hip fracture patients. The literature says that hip fracture are the most severe and costly fall-related fracture that account for 350,000 hospital admission. Hip fractures are a major cause of mobility and mortality in the elderly, with the incidence expected to rise from the current 75,000 cases annually to 101,000 by the year 2020. All this literature shows that hip fractures and its readmission are definitely a cause of concern, and we should study the factors which are affecting its dramatic increase.
For data extraction, we followed this particular methodology. First, we found all the encounters which have undergone the hip fracture procedure. Then we found all the patients associated with these hip fracture procedures. Once we have the list of the patients, we found all the encounters of the patients regardless of their diagnosis code. Since here our objectives to study the readmission rate, we would only consider those encounters which occurred after hip fracture was performed. Moving ahead with the descriptive statistics of the variable, let's study one after the other the important variable which we found to be significantly important in our study. The first variable is age of the patient. The age of the patient varies from 0 to more than 75. However, for our analysis purpose, we would only consider the patients whose age is more than 50 years. The second important variable is length of stay. In our data set, we found that length of stay varies from 0 to more than 300 days. However, there are very small percent of encounters whose length of stay is more than 50. 99% of our data lies between 0 to 50 days of length of stay. Therefore, we would only go ahead and consider only those encounters whose length of stay falls between 0 to 50 days. The second important variable was to study the distribution of race of the patient. We found that in our data, the Caucasian race is dominating in the population. Therefore, it would create biased effect on our model parameters, and hence we would not take this variable into consideration in our analysis. The second important variable was census region. We found that 90.4% of our encounters are from Midwest, 41.3% of data is from Northeast, 27.9% is from South, and 11.5% belongs to the West region. Now, this could also be because of our Cerner health data facts from where they are being collected. However, since we are talking about in percentage, this pretty much gives us the green signal that we can use this variable in our analysis. The next important variable is marital status. So talking about the distribution of marital status, we have clubbed all the unknown, not mapped and missing values into unknown category, so which makes up 15.2%. The reason behind this strategy was to avoid the loss of data in any form. Next important variable is discharge location. Initially we had 36 level of this variable. We brought it down to 13 levels with iterative discussion with subject matter expert. Now, the most important variable, our target variable. We found that 7.5% of the encounters were readmitted and 92.5% of them were not readmitted within the 30 days time span. Since our target variable was binary categorical variable, the first model that we selected is logistic regression. So on the screen it shows the ANOVA results for the most significant variables found by the model. The first important variable is census region, followed by marital status, discharge location, age in years, and length of stay. So overall we can say that the model found these variables to be statistically significant at 95% of confidence interval. These are the odds ratio with 95 percentile confidence interval for each of the levels of the categorical variable. Let's go ahead and discuss these odds ratio in detail. First of all, we would discuss the odds ratio for numerical variables. For every 1 unit increase in age, the odds of being readmitted to the hospital in 30 days versus not being readmitted in 30 days increases by a factor of 1. For every unit increase in length of stay, the odds of being readmitted to the hospital versus not being readmitted in 30 days is decreased by 0.03. As we go ahead and see in the graph as well, the graph clearly shows that as the age increases, the number of readmissions encounters also increases. Following is the odds ratio of discharge location. Now, since this is a categorical variable, our code has split this into the levels. We would discuss all these levels one after the other, keeping admitted as an patient to this hospital as our base variable. If we see the graphs, it clearly explains that which of the levels have high predicted probability of being readmitted in 30 days versus not being readmitted in 30 days. As it is showing that discharge to home has highest predicted probability of being readmitted, followed by discharge or transfer to long-term care hospital, followed by discharge and transfer to another short-term hospital, and so on. The second graph also explained the same. Here, the x-axis is being varied with the increasing age. So this proves that the age group is not a factor which is deciding the discharge location. Next significant variable was census region. If we talk about this variable, we have kept Midwest as our base level. With having hospital in Northeast versus Midwest increases the odds of 30 days readmission by 1.02. Having hospital in South versus Midwest, it decreases the odds of 30 days readmission by 0.65. And having hospital in West versus Midwest decreases the odds of 30-day readmission by 0.865. As you can also see from the graph that green is dominating. Green represents the Northeast, which is at the top, and it clearly shows that the 30-day readmission for this Northeast region hospitals have higher predicted probability. The next important variable found by the model was marital status. Diverse patient is used as the baseline. For married patients, the odds of success increases by 1.0956. For single patients, the odds of success increases by 1.04, and for widowed patients, the success decreases by 0.96. Also see from the graph that married patients have highest predicted probability of being readmitted in 30. So here is the ROC curve for the model. As we can see that the area under the curve is significantly large enough, so we can say that model is performing pretty well in terms of predicting the readmission rate. Our second model is a decision tree, which my fellow mate would explain.
So as Abhi explained that our reason for choosing logistic regression was because our target is a binary categorical variable consisting of ones and zeros. Because of the same reason, we chose decision tree as our second modeling technique. While we ran decision tree, we found two statistically significant variables. They were discharge disposition code description and second was length of stay. We found that when it was discharge disposition code, there was 65% probability that a person won't be readmitted, whereas 34% probability the person will be readmitted. Whereas when length of stay is less than 1.5, 16% probability that a person won't be readmitted, whereas 83% probability that a person will be readmitted. This is the decision tree that was constructed. We tried to prune our tree and see whether this tree was optimal or not. We found that size of 2 was optimal enough, so we recreated our tree and pruned it. Then we found that only discharge disposition code description was statistically significant enough for explaining our model. There are two levels, 0 and 1. So the decision tree interpretation is as follows. If the discharge location is discharged to home or discharged to long-term care hospital, then the readmission status would be 1. Else the patient won't come back in 30 days. That means a person would not be readmitted. So after studying both the logistic regression and the decision tree, we found the accuracy of logistic regression was 67.82%, whereas for decision tree was 67.25%, which is almost equal for both of them. Both the models are performing pretty well. But the common thing in both the model is that the discharge location is found statistically significant in both the models. It's our recommendation to all the important stakeholders and doctors and healthcare providers that extreme care should be given while discharging the patient, because there should be no chance left that a person should be readmitted. Because as we discussed before, that number of readmissions are affecting the future cost of healthcare delivery.